Hello, marketer, and welcome to another episode of Lean Mean Marketing Teams. I'm excited today to welcome our guest, Kevin Marasco, CMO at Zenefits. Kevin is an all-star CMO, having helped multiple SaaS companies grow fast, raise capital, and get acquired. Specifically, Kevin has three-time 1,000% plus growth experience at startup, private, and public SaaS companies. He's also a board advisor, LP, startup investor, and venture advisor. Before Zenefits, Kevin has been the marketing leader at HireVue, acquired by Carlyle Group, Taleo, acquired by Oracle, and Vurve, acquired by Taleo. His passion for marketing, leadership, and tech is infectious. I honestly think I could have talked with Kevin for hours. So much fun digging into his career, what he loves about working in SaaS companies, including the unique challenges and the broad remit that marketing has in these organizations. During the show, we dig into a range of topics, starting with how he's building a modern marketing team at Zenefits, what patterns he's noticed when entering high-growth companies, how he works out what capabilities are needed, and the skills Kevin looks for. We then talk about a topic I love, which is how marketing, product, and sales can work effectively together, and how the modern CMO needs to work with all exec counterparts and how to go about it. Lastly, we discuss Kevin's new book, People Operations, co-authored with Jay Fulcher and Tracy Coate. This book describes how to automate HR, design a great employee experience, and unleash your workforce. We chat about what People Ops is, why it matters, and what it means for CMOs and CCOs. Given the emerging war for talent, the changing world of work, and the interconnection between CX and EX, I think this book is timely and practical. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode where we share some practical tips on what you can do right now to increase motivation and productivity of your team by applying some strategies from the book. This episode is packed with a lot of actionable content, so make sure you get the notes for this one. Dylan on the team listens back to the episode and creates a summary PDF that includes all the useful tips and strategies laid out in a nice, easy to read format. Just head to growthgenerators.io, head to the podcast section, look out for this episode and download the notes. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Lean Mean Marketing Teams with Ty Hayes, where you'll hear from leading CMOs and thought leaders about what it takes to create a high-performance marketing team. This podcast is brought to you by Growth Generators, a consulting firm that helps CMOs design and build modern marketing teams that drive growth. If you need help optimizing your marketing team, head to growthgenerators.io. Now, let's get on to the show.
Welcome, Kevin Marasco, CMO at Zenefits, to the Lean Mean Marketing Teams podcast.
Hey, Ty. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for today's chat. I first came across your profile when I interviewed Josh Steinley about his book, Chief Marketing Officers at Work, a little while back on episode 25, and you were featured as one of the top CMOs and your previous role at HireVue. And yeah, a lot of what I read about your profile kind of resonated about marketing teams needing to be really data-driven and agile and move fast. So that piqued my interest. And then, doing further research ready for this interview, I think you've got a fascinating background, successful track record in helping drive SaaS companies, fast growth, helping them scale, and an interesting blend between marketing, kind of tech startups, HR, people talent, and a background in engineering. So I think it's going to be a fun chat today. And with your experience, I thought you'd have really useful insights to share on how to assemble and build a modern marketing function inside SaaS companies, drilling down into how to successfully drive alignment between sales, marketing, and product. And lastly, I'd love to dig into your new book, People Ops, co-authored with Jay Fulcher and Tracy Coate, to find out what the People Ops movement is all about and what chief marketing officers or chief customer officers can apply from the book to lift staff engagement and performance. How does that sound?
Sounds fantastic. Thanks again for having me. Really appreciate it and excited to chat with you, Ty.
Yeah, it's going to be good. A lot to cover. Okay, so to kick things off, why don't you share with the audience some of that really interesting career background?
Yeah, I call myself an accidental marketer and that I didn't intend to go into marketing. I was actually studying to be an electrical engineer. So, more into data science, computer science, literally kind of accidentally got into marketing, but then started to just love it. And of course, with the convergence of data, analytics, engineering, and marketing, right? It's now, I guess serendipitous, I'm just oh, wow, feel super fortunate. But yeah, past 20 years have been in marketing and kind of various stages from startup, done a couple super early stage startup, sub 20 employees to, bigger public companies. And I love it. I truly love it. And it's cool to see the marketing practice evolve. And, you just can't rest on your laurels because it's evolving so fast. I think that's one of the things that, attracts me to it, and every day gets me excited. So yeah, past 20 years, kind of high growth SaaS, all things like marketing and go to market.
Yeah, brilliant. And was it that kind of background in engineering and tech and data that drew you to SaaS companies and those technology companies?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of started, a buddy of mine was like, hey, you should come work with us. We're at this high growth, company. My brother started a company and it's going crazy. We need help with engineering and marketing. And it started as like a side hustle type of thing. And then it just was going bonkers. So I'm like, oh, this is like fun. I love the people. I love what we were doing. And then, haven't looked back since. So it's that, I think the growth, and of course, SaaS is just amazing. Is transforming like every industry, and marketing's at the tip of the spear of that. So I think that's one of the things that really got me excited about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. They say software is eating the world. And I think you've played some key roles in kind of developing markets as well as, helping products gain that product market fit and scale. So thinking then on your own contribution to helping these companies grow, apart from some of your technical background, what other skills, capabilities, or values do you think have been core to your success throughout your career?
I'd say, team building is huge, right? Like if you're in a company that's growing and scaling, and if you think about marketing, it's kind of unique. Other areas of the business are a little more rinse and repeat. Okay, here's the profile of person we're looking for. We need more of them. And think about CX, sales, operations, G&A, things like that. Marketing's a bit of a unique puzzle, and that you have such unique skill sets, right? You need creative skills, you need data skills, you need operational skills, PR, comms, demand. And as this evolved over the past decade or so, it's even gotten more sophisticated and diverse. And so it's like literally trying to put together this unique jigsaw puzzle. So I think the team building piece is huge. So I'd say that's a key area. And for sure, data. You got to be data driven in today's world, right? Every aspect of marketing is, even things that used not to be data driven are now data driven.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge area. So those are a couple that I think are key.
The team makes sense. And I love that jigsaw analogy because there's so much complexity in that. You need to be across at least those disciplines and know what they're about. You need to hire the right people, that are smarter than you and that are domain experts in that. But then you've got such diversity of personalities and skill sets. Yeah, your role as a leader to actually get them all working together and to harness that diversity. That is a skill and a craft in itself, isn't it?
It absolutely. And not only does someone have to be really good at what they do, certainly you need that, but they also need to work well with other pieces, right? So they have to fit well from a culture standpoint. This person has to work well with this person, even though what they do is different, it's interrelated, right? And so we've all heard the brilliant jerk, stories, right? So you
can crush the culture. Yeah,
exactly. So you got to manage all that, and it takes a unique skill set to be able to do that effectively.
And especially if you're growing fast, it can be a temptation to just get someone on the chair, but obviously that can backfire and actually prove slower than taking your time in hiring. So for the audience's benefit then, can you tell us a little bit about Zenefits?
Yeah, absolutely. We focus on what we call people operations. And if you think about it, like the most important asset and largest expense in any company are the people, the payroll, the benefits. And so we help companies manage and optimize that. So all aspects of people operations, including historically what's HR, payroll, benefits, and helping people do their jobs better, giving them tools to maximize their productivity, engagement. And we focus on technologies is a huge piece, but also content, tools, best practices. There's 100 new regulations passed last year alone, over 100 just in the US. And we help companies keep up with all that. It's a changing landscape. So helping companies do a better job of that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Well, then coming to the main body of the interview then, moving into how to assemble and build a modern marketing team inside SaaS companies. Firstly, what do you think is kind of unique about leading a modern marketing team inside a SaaS company compared to, say, a more traditional product or service industries?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ty. I think what's important in a SaaS company, the footprint of marketing is expanded. So many of the CMOs I talk to, they're like, wow, I'm now taking on this and that and that. If you think about it, it's getting closer into sales, touching with sales enablement, product-led growth, inside sales, SDR, sales development, et cetera. So there's more demands from sales to be more effective. There's more demands from product in terms of working with the product strategy, the product roadmap, voice of the customer. And you kind of go down the line with every part of the org, right? Like there's more demands from every area. And I think that's one of the key things is in maybe a traditional industry, marketing perhaps played a more tactical role, or, hey, we just need leads. We just need, it's a collateral factory or whatever, where it has to really ingrained in every part of the business and partnering with literally every function. You can kind of go down the line, you're helping with the people team in terms of employment branding and recruiting and everything. So I think that's one of the unique things. And then therein lies, hey, marketing is becoming more sophisticated and diverse and now requiring unique skill sets that maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago we didn't have. Now that we need those skill sets in marketing.
Yeah, it creates an org challenge as well, just that collaboration across the different functions, doesn't it? And requires real executive alignment as well as team alignment to make sure that, you've got strong relationships and everyone's working together effectively, which I'll love to dig into a bit later on in the interview. So then can you tell us a bit more about your current role as CMO for Zenefits?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm responsible for go-to-market, includes all traditional aspects of marketing, branding, corporate marketing, product marketing, demand, content, organic, social, et cetera. We also oversee our product-led growth. So in our case, a big focus for us for both down market and just how today the modern buyer, honestly, candidly wants to buy. They want to see it, not just hear about it. So they want to experience the products. And so we oversee the product-led growth aspect of the go-to-market, inside sales and sales development and analytics. So those are the kind of the main focus areas.
Yeah, awesome. And then how does that structured in your team, like in terms of your direct reports and how you organize all of those different functions?
Yeah, so we have corporate marketing, which is communications, customer marketing. We have product marketing, which is, kind of your traditional portfolio of all the products, the go-to-market motion there. And we have a marketing acceleration, which is a little bit unique. Not all marketing functions I see have that. And this is basically pricing, packaging, segmentation, et cetera, those areas. Then demand marketing, we have the product-led growth, SDR, and then analytics. And then you can kind of go, double click at each of those areas. Right?
Yeah.
Those are kind of the main focus areas. And I'm fortunate to have just an awesome team that's a lot smarter than I am, the true heroes.
Yeah, sounds exciting. And how's your team changing since you joined back in 2017? Has the structure changed much since then, or the size?
It has. It has evolved. We've kind of pivoted, since I came in, we pivoted the business model a little bit, like pure SaaS. We were originally an online insurance broker. The marketing structure is a little more traditional with like field marketing, events, and where we've really gone double down is really all digital, 100% digital at this point. We've really built out the demand function, the PLG, product-led growth area. And I'd say we've kind of evolved product marketing as well, where it's really like integrated with product, helping drive product strategy in terms of what we're building and why. So I think those are kind of the main areas. It's evolved. We've kind of built out the data and analytics function as well, not only from a business analytics standpoint, but it's a huge marketing tool. We have data for well over 10,000 companies, small business, kind of the pulse of the economy in many aspects. And so we're able to tap into those insights. And so that's an area we're trying to continue to build out.
So is that an opportunity for other products to come out of that, or is it just in terms of the product offering back to customers, or still TBC?
Both.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, product opportunities out of that. An example, we took, hey, we have all this aggregated and anonymized data. We can give folks insight on things like, hey, what's my contribution rate? What should it be for benefits? How much should I pay for my employees' benefits? Well, we can show you, we can benchmark you and show you what your peers are paying. How much Wall Street Journal just pinged us the other day, like, hey, what's the average time off balance for employees right now? And how's that changed since COVID? right? So year over year and things like that. So there's like amazing insights. And then of course, from a marketing standpoint, there's incredible insights that we use to drive our marketing strategy in terms of, everything from who we're targeting, why, and how we're positioning all the, all the usual, applications.
It's exciting. And the market acceleration, you said that you haven't seen that in many other orgs. How did that come about? It sounds, highly strategic, looking at pricing, packaging, segmentation, really getting into some of those other 4 Ps for sure there. Talk to me about the genesis of that.
Yeah, it's a good question. And how it originated, we had a need to optimize our pricing, our packaging, and segmentation. So there's a business need there, and it was kind of a talent situation where there's someone I was fortunate to work with in the past, brilliant marketer, and we were having a conversation to leave his current company to come on board, and we were just started talking through it, like, hey, this could be a role for like kind of more traditional product marketing, which we had needs there too. But like, hey, we have these higher level, more strategic needs for the business that can drive more value. So, hey, why don't we form a new function that's separate? Like, let's let product marketing focus on the core go to market, on product launches. There's so much work to do there. We don't want to distract them, let them focus and up level that work. But there's also this higher level strategic work that we really needed to be to build a strategic pricing function. So we said, hey, let's try something a little bit different. And it's worked really well.
Yeah, awesome. And how large is your team overall?
We have probably about 70 people total. Like core marketing, I'd say, is about 25 people.
Yeah, cool. And the move to 100% digital, was that accelerated by COVID, or were you 100% digital before COVID?
It was before. It was really economics for us, focus on small business. So our unit economics are at the lower end of the spectrum in terms of like our deal size. So we're really trying to optimize LTV to CAC and everything. And so if you think about it, we have to generate hundreds of leads a day, tens of thousands a month. And so going out and doing like traditional, like ABM and field marketing, people, hey, you want to do this trade show? There's going to be 500 or 1,000 people. I'm like, I got to generate that in a day. Like the economics don't make sense. And so that's really what drove it. It's really a forcing function. And so when COVID happened, we're already there, fortunately, from that aspect. Of course, like the digital landscapes is evolving so fast that it keeps it interesting.
Yeah, brilliant. And in terms of the skills and capabilities, you've mentioned which ones you're kind of building, but how do you identify the new skills and capabilities that you need? A market acceleration was a great example. You saw this business need, but were there any other examples where you've gone, we've got a gap here, the business needs this as an opportunity, let's just double down in this particular area?
Absolutely. I mean, I tend to start before like recruiting, and I say this, of course, there's times you meet someone like, oh, this is a great talent. Where could they fit inside the business, the team, right? Yeah. But I tend to try to start with like the business need. Like, what are we trying to do? Yeah. And then, okay, if we're trying to do X, what skill sets are required to do that, right? And then step back from there. Okay, if these are the skills needed, where are we likely to find them? Like, what competencies does someone need to have? What experiences do they need to have or not? Because there's experiences where it could backfire. If someone's used to doing this and we need to do them a little thing, that could actually, if I hire someone who has a ton of field marketing experience and wants to do all these events, but we're digital, that could actually backfire, right? And then mapping out, okay, then how do I assess and interview for these skill sets to see if someone has that? So that's tends to be like the approach. And we have an opportunity with pricing. Just market data shows that we're underpriced. So we need someone who can help do that. And then here's the skill sets they would need and experiences they would need in order to be able to deliver on that. And so it's kind of starting with the end in mind and then working back to then ultimately get to, hey, where are we going to go find talent that will fulfill these requirements?
Yeah, makes sense. And given your track record of helping companies pivot and scale, what you've seen inside as a CMO, and I know you're an investor as well in companies, are there any patterns you've noticed in terms of you look at a team and you go, there's an obvious gap in capability, either around a particular channel or a certain function, or is it, like you say, it always depends on the business strategy, the capabilities they've got, and it's different every time?
I think there'll always be gaps. I mean, that's part of growth and scaling, right? Like you get to one level and then now you're going to need to do something new, and you're probably going to need new skill sets to do that. And someone's either going to have to learn that, you're going to have to hire for that or contract for that, use an agency, contractor, et cetera. So I think that's part of growth, is it creates gaps and then you got to fill them, and then it creates more gaps. You got to fill them. And I think like the pattern though that I see is that growth mindset, like looking for the gaps and then the ability to fill them, looking for the next gap and the ability to fill them. And you really need that at every level. I mean, CEO level for sure, but then, your head of marketing, you need that. And then even getting levels down, call it a demand marketing function. And at first, okay, one person can do everything. They can push all the buttons, but then as you scale, you're going to need specialists in each area. And so it's important to be able to identify those gaps.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, so moving now then on to the alignment between marketing, sales, and product. What's been your experience through your career in terms of how well these teams work together?
I love this topic. I've walked into multiple scenarios where, to put it bluntly, there's not a lot of alignment. You quick conversation with the head of sales or head of product, and whoa, like here's all the things that are broken and we need, and it's wow.
Yeah.
And this is critical for any, I think, marketing leader. You have to build great relationships with every function, for sure, sales, for sure, product, but even beyond that, with the CEO, the board, finance, people team. Marketing continues to broaden and diversify. It becomes increasingly important. But to simplify, it's understanding the point of view, right? Like what, understanding sales and what they're on the hook for, delivering a number. And revenue, they're not accountable for leads. They're not accountable for open rates or click-through rates or, SEO. They don't care about that. It's hitting a number. And so you really have to appreciate and empathize with that. On down the line, product, hey, they're trying to help build the product roadmap, understanding the voice of the customer and then delivering on that. And so I think it starts with understanding each function, their point of view, their goals and KPIs, and then how you can help them, but also in a way that helps you, right? Sales is the easiest because, hey, we're both accountable for revenue, not leads, revenue. And then you've got to work back from there to, okay, what's the pipeline required? What's the lead volume required, the meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it starts with that. And, really the empathy part is a huge piece, but that alignment should be talking to each of these functions weekly, if not daily, right?
Wow, there's been a lot covered in this interview so far. As a marketing leader, we know you like to spend more time taking action and less time taking notes. So we've got you covered. We packaged up all the tips, strategies, and resources from each episode into some beautifully crafted notes just for you. Not ugly AI-generated transcripts, but real notes taken by a real person on our team. To grab the notes, head on over to growthgenerators.io, look out for this podcast episode and download the notes. But be quick, they're only live for a few weeks after the episode airs. Now, back to the show.
Great advice. I think it definitely starts with that empathy and that understanding and walking in their shoes and realizing that you're all in it together and trying to get to as much shared KPIs as you can. And that mentality that if sales fails, then your team is failing. It's not on them. It's a shared responsibility.
100%. You can't have one function winning and the other losing. And for sure, I've seen that. And it's also breaking down the borders and barriers, because I think we artificially create, hey, this is a marketing meeting. This is a sales meeting, start to break those down. And so do joint, like we have every Monday morning, we have a sales and marketing huddle. Heck, there's probably like 5 meetings a week that are joint, right? There's all teams, here's what we're doing and focusing on this week. Here's how we're doing. Here's what we're going to focus on. Here's what's working. Here's what we need to improve on. And then there's the leadership strategy and planning meetings, and those should be joint too, between sales, marketing, ops. And so it's like continuing to focus on borders and barriers, and having shared goals is a good starting point.
Yeah. So do you guys use OKRs or any of those other wonderful cascading goals mentioned in the People Ops book?
We do. What we currently do is like a hybrid of V2 MOM and OKRs. So we kind of use V2 MOM at a company level. And then as we get down to teams and individuals, we use the OKR model. And of course, we use our own software to track it. And we find that works well for our environment and our culture. We try to give folks autonomy to kind of define at an individual level what they're actually doing. Here's the outcome we're trying to achieve, but we want to give people the autonomy to develop, hey, I'm going to try this. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to try this, right? Find that work really well.
Yeah, because exactly, autonomy is one of those key pillars, keep people motivated, and not making it about the activity, but the results and holding them to the outcome, rather than their activity. You mentioned V2 Mom. So for anyone that hasn't heard of V2 Mom, can you give us a brief overview of that?
Absolutely. Salesforce, Mark Benioff, was the originator of V2 Mom, but V2 Mom stands for vision, values, mission, objectives, and measures. I hope I got that right. In the concepts, define the vision for, you start at the company level, right? What's the vision for the company? What are the values? What are the objectives, measures, the methods that we want to get there? And then you kind of cascade that down. Okay, this is what we're trying to accomplish from a company. What's marketing's vision, right? And what are the objectives? What are the methods, et cetera? And then you kind of keep going down to the individual level, and they should all connect. I think that's in any goal methodology, cascading or connections is like the key, right? So it's important that what the company's trying to achieve, that every function's trying to achieve, drive that same outcome, and then down to the individual level. And it's amazing. Like, we work with over 10,000 small businesses. One of the things we help them with is sometimes it's easy just to get in go mode. Hey, we want to go, start a company and everyone's doing a thing, and then it's like, okay, we need more people. But as the company grows and scales quickly, a function or an area can be doing their own thing. And it's important to keep everybody aligned, going in the same direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, part of my work, both as a previous CMO and now as a consultant, is helping some of the teams with that vision and mission. I think it's so important as a marketing team to know, what are we here for? What are we about? What are we striving for? And set that ambition in terms of what they want to become.
And it's important. It's how you how you operationalize that, I think, is important. It's where you're not just giving it lip service. We have the values on our wall in the hallway, but it's the rituals and things you build and the culture. We have an all hands later today, and we have core value awards, and every time peers nominate folks for a value. Hey, this one's for acting like an owner, and here's specifics of what they did. And anyways, so it's all those things that's where you can make it fun, and then it really instills it into the culture.
Breeds that culture. And we did that the same in previous roles, where the peers nominate each other, and they even get up and read it out to their peer, and we'd have silly certificates and prizes, and it's amazing. It can really do some wonders for the culture.
Love it.
What are the last tips, or what have you done in your career, or any last advice on what CMOs can do, or their teams, to strengthen those vital relationships with exec counterparts?
Understanding each functional leader and area and what they're responsible for, what they're trying to deliver on, and really trying to empathize with them, understand maybe a level deeper how their org works. I think one thing in my career that's helped is doing things outside of marketing, honestly. Being an engineer and understanding what that actually looks like, doing a pull request and submit. It's when you can kind of understand. And of course, we don't have time to do every single job in the company, but getting outside of marketing, I think, can be a helpful thing, because you can understand that the world doesn't just revolve around you and your team, your area. But here's what it's like to be in sales, to be in finance or CX. And that just kind of helps. And just spending time with those areas can help if you don't have the opportunity to do it. And then trying to identify the connection points. Here's the people team. They're trying to recruit. We're marketers. We focus on positioning and branding. Well, let's do the same thing for employment branding and positioning the company to candidates, and help them with tools, maybe even collateral. And so trying to understand how you can help the other areas in a way that also advances the entire business, I think is a key point.
Brilliant. Love that. And before we get to people ops, one last question, but do you guys use Agile squads or anything to bring some of those disparate functions together, either around product or around certain initiatives?
We do. Agile in general, like
Mm.
so many aspects of the business for sure, like product R&D, updates our product basically 5 days a week. And then from a marketing standpoint, I would call it like a derivative of, epics, our version of epics. And so we kind of go in like 6 months. So first of all, I found like the annual thing just doesn't really work, doesn't scale. If you have an annual plan and is focused just on hitting that plan in 9 months, it's probably the wrong plan, right? The world's moving way too fast for that. We'll pick these big rocks that we call epics and we focus on those. They tend to be about the first 6 month-ish, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. And then we run campaigns and sprints that we're doing. They're typically like bi-weekly. And then if stuff works, we turn it into evergreen and then we iterate on it. And then, we apply concepts like the retros where we're looking, hey, what worked, what didn't, let's break it down. And then how we can improve upon it next time. And then I think that the iteration, right? We're always like iterating. We do, versions of show and tell. And I think another key aspect is like stand-ups. Automated that. We use, bots through Slack. So we have different teams every day. Basically, we have like a marketing OKR. So you can see, hey, how are we progressing on our OKRs? What's working? What's in our way? What do you need help with? That type of thing. What do you learn? And we do it through automation Slack. That way we're not having to waste, tons of meetings. So we've kind of integrated those principles into in our operating rhythm and find it. Well, we're always tweaking and changing stuff, but
Yeah. I think it's important in SaaS companies to use those practices and principles, especially when your product teams and other teams are. You need to work fast, you need to fail fast, you need to learn, you need to iterate. And I think if marketing teams in that environment don't, then you'll just look a bit out of step, wouldn't it?
Totally. Early in my career, it was this whole annual cycle thing. I was like, okay, here's the plan and here's what we're doing this year and here's the and all that.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting for me. I think when I really learned that it doesn't work, went to a public company and we were on an earnings call and here's for the quarter. And so we'd have extra money sometimes, like extra cash came in and we have to use it or lose it type thing. And so they go to marketing like, hey, is there anything, who can spend this amount of money? Which is like most marketers a dream, but you need to have something lined up that you could execute on like in 48 hours, right? Like, so it's like, you don't have time to go procure something. You got to be able to go. And that's where I learned, like, we need an agile approach where, hey, here's the stuff we're doing. Here's the stuff we want to do. So if we have that opportunity, here's what we're going to spend right now and go do. And it's going to drive this value to the business. And so it's a kind of a forcing function to think in a more agile. Of course, this was like 15 years ago, whatever, but
you can see how that would be a strong catalyst for it. I think that and anyone working in media where it's like constant news feed and content going live. All right, so let's get on to this book then, People Ops. Tell us about this book, why it came about and what People Ops is.
The reason it come about, the publisher, Wiley, is one of the biggest publishers. Have been around for, I think, 100 years. They saw the future of work changing. This was like right in the early part of the pandemic. They kudos to them for seeing, hey, this is like work's going to change. People are trying to figure out how to go remote, distribute it, and figure all this out. We don't know where it's going, but they're like, it's going to be different. And they approached us. We have a media site that we launched in marketing, and it really started to take off. And they saw that they bumped into this media site, as a lot of people did, especially in the pandemic. They're trying to figure out how to work remote, how to get stimulus. They're like, hey, would you guys write a book on how work is changing and how to manage it? And I was flattered that they asked, but I was like, we don't have time. We have to market, right? Long story short, I talked to some peers that had done the books. They're like, hey, this is like one of the best things we've ever done. It like codified our thinking on these topics. It was tough because we did, especially kind of mid-pandemic, we had so much going on. It's a lot of work, and ultimately decided, hey, we should really do this, not for ourselves, but to help our customers, to help our market. And especially for small businesses, we find the majority of our key constituents, they haven't done this before. They haven't been 20 years doing HR. They don't want to. They started a business to start a business, right? I want to build bicycles. I want to start food trucks or whatever it is. That's their passion. They have to do the people ops side. And we all know people are critical, the most valuable asset in any business. So you can't afford to do it wrong, but you also want to invest your time into your passion. And so we said, hey, if we write this book, it could help people with that. So that was really genesis of it was to help, and why we did it. And, we were fortunate. We're like, hey, we can kind of pull the weight in marketing. We're investing in all this content. We're publishing 3-4 articles a day anyways. Why don't we kind of take all this content, best practices from working with thousands and thousands of businesses and try to help companies. So that was really the genesis of it. And it was a lot of work.
I have no doubt, especially on top of a hectic day job. Just for people's benefit, like, what's your definition of people ops in the book for those that may not have heard of it?
Yeah, sure. So the book's called People Operations, How to Automate HR, Design a Great Employee Experience, and Unleash the Workforce. And that's really what we walk through in the book. And if you think about it, like, we kind of break this down, but the next version of HR, I mean, HR was born not 100 years ago as generally a bureaucratic function to manage, started as labor relations and managing unions. And it was mainly about compliance, record keeping, and et cetera, right? But what we've noticed working with thousands of businesses is they're redefining that, they're rethinking that. And they're going, hey, we want to help our people be their best, do their best work, maximize their productivity, drive engagement, build a great culture that we can then use to differentiate against our competitors. And so really that's what we've tried to package up in the book. Hey, how do you kind of leave behind the legacy approaches to HR that are bureaucratic, the policy police, and focus on automate all that stuff, automate the work you have to do, record keeping, compliance, payroll, and then focus employees on allowing them to do their work. So some of the stuff we were talking about, how do we align goals? How do we motivate people? How do we reward and recognize them? And then how do we scale that into a culture that's going to be a best place to work where people want to work and can come and accomplish incredible things together and build great experiences.
Makes sense, and can totally understand how timely it is with the world of work changing, also HR evolving, and just look at the evolution of marketing ops and sales ops over the past 5 to 10 years. I think people ops and HR is obviously part of those changes, and even the connection between people ops and marketing. Like, I think it's Twitter, and you see some of the other companies now are having chief people and brand officers, and they're combining people and marketing, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I did too. It's interesting that, like, most companies I've worked at, especially like where it's high growth, we always tend to think about sales and marketing alignment, sales and product, which are critical, like super critical, of course. But in every company I've, like, next in line is working with, what was the HR team or the people team. And so much work. It started 15 years ago. We're like, oh, wow, I was in a small market. We were trying to pull people from Silicon Valley. So like, oh, how do we sell this area? How do we sell this company versus a big company that just raised a ton of money? So it was about positioning, branding, recruiting. You think about recruiting, it's like, just like you're building a marketing pipeline, you're building a candidate pipeline. So it's amazing the analogs between marketing and people ops. It's a huge, huge connection point.
And the synergy when you're positioning and your differentiation, especially for SaaS companies, is a lot of the time the product, and you need the right people to build the best product. So it's all synergistic. Well, then for CMOs or CCOs, what's the advice in terms of how they should be engaging with the chief people officer or director people and culture to assist these organizations to proceed up the people ops maturity curve?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it really depends. I found each organization is a little bit different depending on the situation, the stage, and candidly, like the people leader too. So I've been in situations where I've worked with phenomenal, like progressive people leaders, like Tracy Cote, where she's like, okay, here's what we need to do. Yeah. And okay, so then it's aligning and helping kind of drive that agenda forward. And holding each other accountable too, right? Like, hey, is this the right thing for where we are? Like, we always, just like we have to prioritize in marketing, we have to prioritize the people ops side too. Is this the right thing for now? And kind of challenging and holding each other accountable, but then moving things forward. And then in other areas, been in other situations where I have to like help establish the agenda and drive it, because maybe we're less mature. It's early stage. We don't have like a sophisticated people leader. We're just trying to keep the lights on and do the essentials, the basics. In that case, like, hold on, if we're going to grow from here to here, talent's going to be key. And here's what we're going to need to do. We're going to have to focus on building not just the external brand, but our employment brand, especially like early stages, this is a couple of times I've seen this. I'm like, we need to do things. It's less about the marketing, how many leads we're going to generate, but how are we going to build this like employment brand locally or nationally or internationally. So sometimes marketing has to step up and drive that, even though it's not, think of it as your day job. So it's understanding the current situation, like what the people ops priorities or the current state is, helping define what the future state should be. Because that's going to be, think about it, in marketing, you're only as good as the talent you can attract and retain.
Yeah.
And then helping kind of drive that agenda forward.
Yeah. And thinking about it as well, like even from a tech stack perspective, marketing, you've probably got engineers, the experts in there that can help HR if they don't have that in terms of identifying the right platforms they need to automate the tasks that they should be doing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting how that's another area, Ty, that there's all these parallels, right? We've been marketing is all about conversational marketing and AI driven chat. And well, there's the same thing going on in people ops and in HR. Like, hey, you have employees have questions. Why can't a bot answer that question? Right.
You've got onboarding and sequences, and you want to create a great employee experience, similar as customer experience.
Exactly. And so like we invest so much in customer onboarding. Why don't we take some of these concepts and share them with our peers on the people side? And hey, how can we make the employee onboarding experience better?
Yeah. Just seeing so many more connections between EX and CX. Like they are hand in glove. They're bringing in the right employees, the right talent to deliver the right customer experience. And the more you understand your employees to get the right talent on board and, use your profiles and your personas, learn what motivates them, reward them. It's so, again, synergistic to create the right culture and get the right people that deliver the right customer experience.
Exactly. And there's tactical examples, like you do a rebranding and we got to build the style guide, right? And I have one right behind me. And it's like, hey, this is our Zenefits brand guide. But one of the things we did, hey, that's great for for marketing and your agencies and all that. But what about our people? Like when we onboard people, why don't we build something like this as a field guide? And so we worked with our people team to say, hey, what's our purpose? What's our vision? So it goes through our VP mom. How do we position our product? What are our values? What are our leadership capability? Leadership. So and as a guide, we sat down with the people team and built it so that every new hire gets this and they understand, oh, wow, this is what we're all about. So instead of wasting all your time and effort on just this style guide about the brand, why not do that for your people? And anyways, there's a lot of stuff like that. Just think about how can we make a bigger impact.
Yeah, love that. Conscious of time, we're nearly out of it. The book has loads of practical advice on what leaders can do to increase employee engagement, productivity, from performance alignment to better understanding employee motivation. But what are a couple of takeaways for the audience that they can apply straight away to maybe help increase employee engagement, productivity?
A couple things. Understanding the employee motivators, I think is huge. And I think right now we're actually entering a talent crisis. The demand is at a 20-year high for job openings, people quitting their jobs. There's all this talk about the great resignation is at also a 20-year high, and the market's crazy. And so it's never been more important to align, engage, and retain talent. And of course, recruiting as well. So understanding what the true employee motivators, we can kind of talk through this in the book, but what motivates employees. And it's not always just the title and the compensation things that used to be maybe 20, 30 years ago. The new motivators of culture, learning, what are people going to learn? How they're building and growing in their career, recognition, flexibility is huge right now, right? And there's little things you can do. You don't necessarily have to pay more money. Can I create a more flexible work environment? Can I give people time off on Fridays? We do no meeting Fridays, period. You can't set a meeting on Friday. It's a flexible day where you can get stuff done. You can go spend it with your family if you want or whatever. So it's just, understanding the current motivators, then implementing practices within your culture and your organization that cater to those motivators, things like flexibility, benefits, rewards, and recognition. And then focusing on culture. So important right now is the rituals, the things you do and how you institutionalize those has never been more important. That's what gets people to stay and also helps recruit talent. So it's less about the tactics and more about the culture you're building.
Yeah. And once again, the parallels with CX. CX being the new battleground. Now it's EX being the new battleground for talent. So.
That's right. That's right, Ty. It's like brand, right? Like brands, people can replicate the product or the feature, but you're building a brand and building a relationship with the customer. And on the people side, you're doing the same thing with your employees.
Yeah, I love the motivation ones, and actually saw a new model in there. I've used Pam on this show quite a lot. Dan Pink's Purpose Autonomy Mastery, but I like Doshi and McGregor's model of motivation in there. Some similar ones, high performance reasons to work around play, purpose, and potential, which I kind of liked. I like the play in there. I think that is so important.
So important. And that's something we try to it's key. We've really tried to institutionalize that. So we do a marketing hackathon. Developers and let marketing teams play and experiment and give them a week to go, build. And by the way, it's amazing some of the stuff you can come up with. And so how do you build those rituals into your team operating rhythm and culture?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, fantastic, Kevin. You've shared so much gold today in terms of how to build a modern SaaS company, how to build the right culture, the importance of hiring the right team and focusing on the team, the capabilities that you're building, and then, some wonderful tips and advice out of your People Ops book as well. Well, we are now up for the Fast Five, where we ask you 5 questions for 5 quick answers. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. So what do you believe are 3 essential capabilities or criteria of a high-performance marketing team?
A growth mindset, humility, and strive for being great and improving.
Yeah, love that. And how would you describe your team's culture in 1 word?
Learning.
Yeah, nice. What is 1 metric you've successfully used to track and measure team performance?
Revenue.
Yeah. Well, that's 1 skill or capability you've learned recently that you wish you'd developed much sooner in your career, and why?
I wish I had learned more about psychology and how people's mind works. Like if I had a chance to go back to school, in that it's critical for team building.
Yeah, for sure. And what book or books have you read that you found yourself recommending to others, or you think our audience would gain value from?
The Obstacle is the Way is probably my favorite. Coming through the pandemic and how to see reframe, and I think two aspects. I mean, obviously how to see something that's challenging as an opportunity, but as a marketer, I think it's key because that's how we should be looking at things, right? Reframing how we position things. I think it's also a double bonus as a marketer.
Yeah. I love the simplicity of that book. It's easy to digest, but it's so powerful as well. And lastly, where can people go to get in touch with you or to learn more about Zenefits?
Zenefits.com. Z is like benefits with a Z. And for me personally, on LinkedIn or Twitter, Kevin Marasco, and it's K Marasco on Twitter.
Yeah. Fantastic, Kevin. Well, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing so much wisdom, insights. I've had an absolute ball chatting with you. And thanks once again.
Likewise, Ty. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it. And thanks for all you do.
You've been listening to Lean Mean Marketing Teams with Ty Hayes. If you love the show, please remember to hit subscribe so that you can discover more tips and strategies to build a high-performance marketing team. And if you're feeling generous, please tell someone about the show who you think would benefit. We're on a mission to help CMOs build their dream team and enable marketers to do their best work. And we appreciate your help in spreading the word.